back in the driver's seat and doing another entry for something that I started, I want to say 6 months ago, something like that. It's been a rough couple of weeks. We've had a big convention to prepare for that we love doing, Monster Mania. It's a big horror convention that happens in Maryland, in Atlantic City, and in New Jersey. We usually do the Jersey one. So we spent a couple of weeks getting that out of the way, and then when we came back, we had discovered that we had both gotten COVID diagnosis from exposure, probably at the convention. So dealing with that for a while, and it all took a lot of time, and it all sucked, but everything's doing good. We're doing better. No convention going on. All clear from COVID. No symptoms. No major things. Baby's still doing fine. So I figured I had spent a lot of time during the time that I was isolating on the couch and just away from my wife as much as I could. I finally got to catch up on, and make more progress into the Arrowverse, which I was really enthusiastic about back in December. I had just gotten this notion that, like, wow, all these shows that were part of it are ending, and they continue to kind of get hit with the cancellation stuff, that it would be awesome to kind of get into it. I loved Arrow. I loved what I had, the few things I had saw from The Flash, and I had gone over a few things in the first entry, which really focused on the Arrow and the Flash, but now I'm more into it. I'm deeper into the Arrowverse now, and I just want to continue where my feelings are, what it feels like to be at this point right now, from both like a viewership and like a fan related area. So what have I done so far? Well, in the week that I was dealing with COVID, I was able to finish up season 4 of Arrow, as well as season 5. Finished up Flash season 2 and 3, did the entirety of Supergirl seasons 1 and 2, Legends of Tomorrow season 1, and I'm almost done with season 2. We'll get into that in a minute. Did the entire Constantine season, the only one that's out, and the Vixen webisodes, which was curated into a little feature film at this point in time. That's how you really can find it. And trying to follow the guide, I guess you can say, as best as I can. And it's still good. It's still drawing me in, and I love the fact that I'm still like intrigued, and I'm still enthralled, and I still want to do more, and I want to finish more. Arrow by itself gets me. I loved Arrow from episode 1, and it just feels really nice to be back into that show and to be even deeper into it than I was last time. Last time I'd only gotten about halfway through season 4, and that was when it was airing. And now that it's out and it's only got 8 seasons, I'm already up to season 6 right now. I started season 6, and I'm moving towards the next crossover episode with the other shows. But I've had to stop because I have to catch up with the other ones. Like, I'm trying to do this right. So I'm watching them in as much of an order as I can, which essentially is watch the first 6 to 7 episodes of each show leading up to the 3 or 4 episode crossover, and then moving on with the rest of each show. But what has happened is I breezed through Arrow, did the second part, or I guess I said the first part of the next season of Arrow up until when the crossover happens, then I stop and I go back, and I've done that with Supergirl, with The Flash, and the hardest thing is Legends of Tomorrow. So let's take a minute to talk about that. This is the hardest part of doing this. I really don't like Legends of Tomorrow. I don't get why it's a show. It doesn't really make much sense to me. It's just nonsensical. Let's see how many characters we can get involved as possible and make this separate show. Like, it's just such cliche time traveling bullshit. It's just not entertaining, at least to me. I mean, that's upsetting because I'm a DC fan and I love seeing these things that they're actually able to incorporate, and they are incorporating a lot. Probably the two shows that incorporate the most when it comes to DC orientated lore and backstory and character building or whatever. Legends of Tomorrow and The Flash are the two best ones for that. They are always incorporating all these different things. Arrow is very limited to what it can incorporate because I want to say it's probably the most toned down of the shows, simply because it has to live in a relative sense of what the Arrow could actually handle, which, again, they're making the Arrow more and more, especially at this point that I'm watching, more and more it seems just like this is their answer, there being no Batman. And then you have the incorporation that everything involves around time and also revolves around the multiverse, because technically Supergirl exists on a different Earth than everybody else. So that's how they make Supergirl and Arrow and the Flash sort of exist together, but not together, because in Supergirl's universe, none of these superheroes exist, and it's just her and Superman, Martian Manhunter, and any other aliens. So her universe is very alien orientated, whereas in the Flash and Arrow Earth, it's very much about Arrow has this city, it's all villains that do this, and then the Flash has his city, and it's all metahumans. So it's all like villains or humans with superpowers that were created because of a particular event. So when you have that separation, you kind of can tell where each show can go. And The Flash can definitely go a lot further than that, because when you're talking about metahumans, you're talking about a large portion of what the DC world is made of. And then that also plays into the idea that, you don't necessarily need to incorporate everyone, but they do a good job at incorporating the ones that they can, and the Flash's ability to kind of do that interdimensional stuff with how the Flash can enter the Speed Force and go back in time and go to different dimensions, and that's how Supergirl gets involved. It opens up those doors to all these other things. So I've appreciated the Flash for that. I appreciate Arrow because Arrow is the OG. It's what started it all, and it's such a great show. And if I ever finish this, actually I shouldn't say ever, because I'm going to. I'm on the road to finishing it. So when I finish this, I could definitely say I can rewatch Arrow and maybe do the rest of it. Arrow is totally worth rewatching at this point in time for anybody who's interested. It's worth it. Even if you don't want to do any of the crossover things, you could probably skip those episodes or just watch them and then maybe go back to the other ones if you want to get the full story. But Arrow is totally worth sitting through. I also appreciated how they had this tie-in Vixen storyline, which they then sort of negated again with Legends of Tomorrow, because the Legends of Tomorrow go back in time and meet what is essentially supposed to be the Justice League, but in that universe it's the Justice Society, which is also something they did in the DC film universe, but it's just not, it's just bad. Like, I don't like anything Legends is doing. I hate all of the cliche time traveling stuff. It's just, they kind of made sense with the first season, but I've gotten into the second season and it's just as bad. And the only reason I'm continuing with it is because I have to. It's because I feel obligated to do the entirety of the Arrowverse to really get a full grip on all of the storytelling they were trying to do. And when you have all these other shows that have their own set of filler episodes, because you're talking each one has 20 to 23 episodes. So you have all of these things, there's going to be filler content. But the filler content on Legends of Tomorrow is not as entertaining as everything else. It's just really, really bad, really cliche, really, I don't even want to say poorly written, just written without any care for trying to be different or unique. And when it comes to time traveling, you can only do so much. And the fact that their entire thing is based on time traveling, and it's not doing, at least from what I've seen, it's not doing enough to keep me drawn in, which is what took me so long to get back into it. Because once I finished 5 seasons of Flash, once I finished the first season of Supergirl, and the first 2 seasons of 4 seasons of Arrow, 3 seasons of the Flash, the first season of Supergirl, and then I had to get into Legends of Tomorrow, it took me so long. Like, I breezed through 4 seasons of Arrow in a week, watching it while working, watching it while sitting around doing stuff. And Legends of Tomorrow was such a drag. I forced myself through that first season, and it just was not worth it. And if it wasn't for COVID, it probably would have been really hard for me to get back into it. But having COVID and being lazy in bed and not being able to do much, I was like, fuck it. I still have to finish this, and I still want to. I just got to make it through Legends. So I made it through Legends. Thankfully, Legends is the shortest of all the shows, only 16 to 17 episodes per each season from what I see in the ledger for it, and I'm super happy about that because it's not as entertaining and I don't want to watch it as much. So I've gotten through Legends, and I've gotten through the unfortunate only season of Constantine, which really upsets me, and I don't understand why it was never picked up for more, because, Jesus, it was so good. And for anybody who is a Constantine fan, they know that they did really, really well with that show. And the fact that it was canceled and CW didn't pick it up to continue a story with everything else, I don't know why, except for the fact that maybe around this time, you're talking, what was Constantine, maybe 6 years ago? This was still prime time for a show like Supernatural, which Constantine is very similar to what the Supernatural storyline is, so maybe CW didn't want to do that because they thought it would outshadow what Supernatural had, which does make sense. But, now that you have all these other shows that are getting canceled and getting finished up, Arrow's done, Supergirl's done, Black Lightning's done, you have all these shows that are getting canceled, maybe they should revisit it because, Supernatural has also been done for a couple of years. So it'd be nice for Constantine to get another shot, it would be nice to see him get incorporated again. I would also love to see them continue on to connect to other Earths and other universes. You have that one episode that I haven't gotten up to yet, but it's when the Flash meets Ezra Miller's Flash. So you're saying that there is a way for all of these continuities to sort of exist. Get the Titans involved. Get Swamp Thing involved again. I would love for the Swamp Thing show to come back. I know that's not, the cancellation for that isn't the same as the cancellation for something like Constantine or when Supergirl got canceled, but you have the opportunity. And right now, the only things that you have still going, I believe, are The Flash and the Superman and Lois show. So you have those two still going. It'd be nice to kind of see where you could do if you add more to the universe and kind of rebuild it. But I could also see here in the infancy how maybe if it doesn't continue on a path that progresses in a solid way, I can see how it loses its steam, because we're talking, this has, the entire Arrowverse has, I want to say, 4 big crossovers. The first is a 4-episode crossover, which I just watched. Then they have a 5-episode, a 5-episode, and then a 6-episode crossover, which is all crossovers that I can't wait for. And it's one of the real reasons I'm starting this off now. And the first 4 crossover episode we have is called Invasion. 3 of the episodes are titled Invasion, 1's not titled Invasion, and 1 is only minorly connected to the rest of them. So the first one is from Supergirl, which is called Medusa, and that's only incorporated into the crossover because the last 5 minutes is when she gets involved. And then the 3 episodes after that for Arrow, The Flash, and Legends is all titled Invasion, and it's the first time that all 4 shows kind of have this crossover event. Is it entertaining? Yes. Does it make sense? Not necessarily, because it's just weird that this is the route they decided to go for the first crossover, and it doesn't leave much of a promise to anything. It kind of just trolls into the storylines of what each individual show kind of plays off on. Like, why is it that if we're talking about an alien invasion in the universe of The Flash and Arrow, by the way, so they have now acknowledged that aliens or alien life forms do exist in that universe with this crossover. that he goes into Supergirl's Earth and brings her in because, like, oh yeah, we're dealing with aliens. You're an alien. Come help us. Makes sense, I guess. But it's just weird that they're incorporating aliens, and it's just this play into everybody's kind of arc, which is I don't think you needed to do it that way. I think it could have been kept separate and just been all these 4 parts that didn't have to involve, all of the trauma that's usually revolving around Arrow, all of the time travel that revolves around Legend. Like, why is it that we're talking about an alien invasions and we're going back in time? To me, it doesn't seem necessary. They wrote it so it felt necessary, but you could have easily written it in another direction and not involved the time traveling stuff. Like, the fact that they're really trying to make every episode of Legends be about time travel is why I feel that the time travel horse is getting beaten down so badly with this show that it just turns me off from it. Like, let it be, okay, time travel, but maybe stay in the same time for a couple of episodes. Like, I'm talking, it's 2 seasons in, and each season has a cowboy episode where they go back to the Old West. Why? Why? You don't need 2 of these in 2 separate seasons. You could easily just done it once and not had it feel like you were trying to really beat me with a time traveling stick. And the fact that they had to involve this in an alien invasion is just nonsensical. It's not necessary. So I know I'm beating the crap out of Legends. I know I am. And, there's probably somebody out there that is a huge Legends of Tomorrow's fan. And then, again, I apologize if this is, if this sucks for you. But understand that Legends of Tomorrow is so far the worst one of all of them from what I've seen. Out of the 4 shows that we have for the Arrowverse thus far, Legends is definitely the bottom of the barrel, and Arrow's still up there at 1, and then there's Flash, and then there's Supergirl, and that's how I feel, and I'm still very much into it. I've already gotten through the first portion of season 4 of The Flash, already halfway through Arrow. I'm leading up to what the next crossover event is, which is Crisis on Earth X. That's also 4 parts, and I'm looking forward to that, but I gotta catch up. I gotta finish actually, no, I finished Supergirl last night, so I have to finish Legends. So again, I'm up to the beginning of Supergirl, The Flash, and Arrow, and I have to finish Legends and catch up on Legends. And that's probably going to be the hardest part. So the third part to this series is probably going to be a while again, unless I really, sit myself down and just try to get through it as best as I can. And that's why I'm kind of watching the first part of The Flash and Arrow, because I rather watch those because I actually enjoy those. I found Flash season 3 in its entirety so much fun for how they decided to take what the Flashpoint paradox is and make it this 23 episode season where I appreciated, not that whether or not it made sense, but I appreciated how they made it work. Everything that they did to sort of make it where it's a substantial issue that he presented and that it affected all the other shows in that universe. It was just perfect. It was done really, really well. And that's really good writing when it comes to time travel and how they don't need to beat you with the time traveling stick. And I don't think Flash does that because it incorporates so much more, and every little bit that they add, it kind of just is intriguing. The idea of the remnant that becomes an evil version of the Flash for season 3, that to me I felt was really, really well thought out, and I appreciated everything the Flash had to offer in season 3. I loved where Arrow season 5 went. I've loved the first 2 seasons of Supergirl. I thought those were really entertaining. It does really suck that we don't have more Constantine. Vixen's a great character. I wish she got incorporated more than just having her be something that's now part of the time traveling past of the Legends in a way, and they incorporated her more how she actually was incorporated into Arrow. I think it was sometime in the middle of season 4 she got incorporated as a character who existed within that world, and I don't think she had any real connection to the Legends. The only connection was to the storyline that happened in Vixen, and they've sort of negated that. But then I guess what the idea is that the Flashpoint also affected that character, I guess. If maybe where it's going, I guess I'm just having that thought now. But I'm still looking forward to what else has to offer. The Invasion crossover was not really something to write home about, but I'm hoping that the Crisis on Earth X is. This is also gonna lead into, once I'm done with season 4 Flash, season 6 of Arrow, season 3 of Supergirl, season 3 of Legends of Tomorrow, and the next crossover. This is also the time where I'm all gonna be incorporating Black Lightning as well. I'm pretty sure this is where they finally get Black Lightning involved. I'm pretty sure. I think Black Lightning picks up after the Crisis on Earth X, but that first season I meant to also incorporate into the Watch Order, and it's only the first season, which is also what it seems to be the shortest of the shows. It's only like 15 episodes or something, but I meant to incorporate that first season. It doesn't have any incorporation until the next crossover after that, the third crossover, but that's when they tell you to watch it. And then I'm also supposed to watch, I believe it's another animated film, The Ray, Freedom Fighters, something like that. It's on the list, but I gotta watch that too. And then, of course, catch up on the other seasons. And what I'll hopefully try to do is I'll try to do a part 3 for this series after I finish all of that and try not to go any deeper after Earth X. I would like to try to do an entry per each crossover to kind of express where I feel the shows are, express how I felt about the crossover and how it plays into itself. Truthfully, I'm still very excited. I'm still very enthusiastic about everything. And it's just super entertaining because I thought this whole idea was great. And I'm really upset that I didn't watch it as it all aired. And now that I'm watching it again and I'm kind of having this moment where it's just so much content to take up and to really get involved in, and to only feel like I'm a third of the way through, it's nice to know that it's almost like a sense of accomplishment. Like, I feel really good about getting this far into it because I am, despite Legends of Tomorrow, I am really enjoying it. And all of it is definitely something that I could say it's worth another watch through. It's worth sitting down and kind of dedicating some time into these shows again if you missed them, if you were somebody that watched them as they aired, if you lost track of them, because of course you're talking 4 shows to keep track of, that eventually leads into 8 shows to keep track of, that eventually dwindles down to 4 shows to keep track of. It was definitely CW at a height where they took the ball and ran with it, and they unfortunately ran with it in various different directions that I'm sure other people find the entertainment in different areas, but I'm finding the entertainment in just being a fan of this universe and finding all the things I like, understanding all the things I dislike and where those are, and still pushing myself through them for the sake of saying, you know, I'm doing this as right as I can. I'm doing this for my love of the DC universe, and I'm gonna complete it. I am gonna complete it. It's probably gonna take a couple of parts, a couple of entries for me to really feel like it's done. And then hopefully when it is done, I really feel a sense of accomplishment in being caught up, I guess I could say. But I still have a long way to go, and I am looking forward to it. You know, just hopefully this next entry doesn't take so long because of fucking Legends. That's truthfully, at this point in time, the hardest thing to get through is Legends. And fingers crossed I can get through it better this time than I did the first time around.